Hi, Ivy. I've looked over your lesson plan and using the rubric that I gave you in class, I will go over each section and give you some feedback. Um, in this first section here, elements and presentation, everything is completed and it looks well thought through. The prior content knowledge comes from some from the standards and then some from the piece that you taught them previously, and those are good criteria. The new content knowledge does a good job of taking small chunks of information that come both from the standards and from your text, and so that is well done as well. So elements and presentation is looking great. In the desired results section, I liked to see that you have kind of narrowed yourself down to one evidence outcome. As I talked about in class, I think that's a good goal to work on for a class. Your essential questions global are well done. My criteria for looking at those is to see if they are questions that real people talk about in the world, not just inside of a classroom, and I believe that those are. Your essential questions from the content area are good because they align very closely with your established goals. Your students will be able to is well done. You followed the formula of having a piece from the evidence outcome, using the word by, and then having some observable outcome on the other side. So in all, your desired results section is well done. In the assessment section, I'm not necessarily grading these yet. What I'm looking for is completion and alignment, and I think you meet both of those criteria. On to your learning plan. I have to say that this is very well done. I like the fact, again, looking back at the rubric and some of the pieces that establish this as being really well done. The objectives and activities are made very clear to the students here. Oh, sorry, right in here. And then you have a hook for the students that obviously shows that you're thinking about students and where they live and the things that they would be dealing with. And you kind of even tease just a little bit, would you just write a note that says I love you? And of course the students say no. So I think that your hook does a very good job at addressing your students on a very human level, and I think that's well done. So here you call this a check for understanding, but I think I would. Oh, well, yes, my apologies. This is a good check for understanding. You are checking to see if the students remember what it is that they read the other night by just telling you about some characters. So it's a good formative assessment for you to know if your students read without being very high risk for your students as well. It doesn't feel like a quiz. I like the fact that you have a graphic organizer for the characters. I think that when you're asking students to organize information in different ways, showing them examples like a graphic organizer is a very good teacher move on your part. You are now moving into addressing your evidence outcome, and you specifically make sure that they know what some of the words mean. So, the word dialogue. And then here, right here, perfect. So we're moving into our modeling and your guided practice, and I think that this is fantastic. I like the fact that there's a lot of exchange. There's a lot of back and forth with you and the students. You're directing them to a specific piece of text, but then you're asking them to answer questions about it, to think about it, to interpret it, instead of just standing up in the front of the room and giving the students all of the answers. So I really enjoyed the format that you put your guided model into. This is a great idea for teachers to do, especially with a much more complex text. Texts that are, I don't know, more contemporary, I would say, are often easier for kids to understand because they can picture what's going on. And sometimes just the high vocabulary and the difficult sentence structure, kids really get hung up on that and they forget that it's just a story about people. And so having them act that out is just a wonderful choice on your part, and it demonstrates to me that you're really thinking about the complexity of the text and how to help your students engage in the text. Okay. Here you're asking them to push beyond merely what a text explicitly says into what a text infers, and that's a very nice alignment with when you look back up at your desired results section, because you want to be looking at how an author demonstrates who a character is without explicitly saying it. Okay. Hold on with me while I scroll. Okay, excellent. So when you move them into small group practice, you're asking them to do the exact same thing that you asked them to do in the guided practice. And I think that's very well done and nice aligned there. So that way, when you set students off to work, if a student raises his hand and says, wait, what should we be doing? You can merely ask that student to recall your guided practice. Well, what's the first thing I did? You read a paragraph of the text. Great. What's the second thing I did? You looked at the dialogue between the two characters. Yes, and what did I do with that dialogue? You asked yourself what kind of a person would say or do things like that. Excellent. So those are the three steps that I want you to do. And so in that way, you're not like reteaching kids all of the time. You're giving them the skills and the strategies they need to do this practice independently. Okay? So you come back to large group to make sure that the students are getting all of the information that they need. And then if for independent practice, you have them do the same piece and just write it up in a paragraph. So that is very aligned. Your transitions are very fluid in that. And again, looking back to the rubric, I think that you have the engaging opening and close. As I stated previously, I think your objectives are clear. Your lesson plan is very fluid. It's very easy to follow. And your activities align from top to bottom. So this is a fantastic lesson plan. Thanks, Ivy.